Hey there, it's Andrea, and welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. So I just got done with an interview, and I thought, you know what, I would really like to talk with you about this a little bit more. So I just talked to Joe McCormick about his book, Quiet Works, Making Silence the Secret Ingredient of the Workday. And we had a great conversation. This is a very, very important topic. It's something that I care a lot about, which is setting aside time in order to be able to think things through and process. This is something that I think I kind of have always been given to, even as like a little kid. I loved my time at night in my room alone where I could just kind of think and imagine and think about the day. And then as a young adult, I spent a lot of time journaling. So at the end of the day, I would take all this time to I would write and would write about the things that I experienced that day, anything that was just sort of on my mind that I wanted to talk about, think about. And I know that process, especially those years, was really critical for me to find my voice, to know what I was really thinking, what I was really feeling, because I was experiencing an intensity of emotion and an intensity of like thought. And if I didn't have an outlet, if I didn't have a way of processing it, thinking about it, then my thoughts were really scattered. All right, so that brings us to this conversation that I just had with Joe McCormick. And what he was talking about is how leaders who do not spend time in quiet, they are often scattered. And scattered leaders, it makes it really hard to follow what they're really asking for. It's hard to understand what they're really trying to say. It makes people confused and anxious. There isn't a solid foundation for a team when a leader is just all over the place. I find that there are times when I like to talk out loud in order to figure out what I think. And I know that a lot of people do that. But the thing that I've really learned over the years is how important it is for me to do that in a setting where it's not necessarily around everybody all the time. For me to talk out loud and think out loud, I can get really scattered if I'm doing that. And in fact, my own team members, I used to use Voxer a lot. I don't know if you know what that app is, but it's an app where you just talk into it. It's like voice messaging back and forth. And I loved it because I could just talk and just think things through in that way. And then we moved to a different platform like Slack, and all of a sudden it felt a lot more like, oh no, this is now something that I have to be really intentional about what I'm saying. And so when I do record messages, I'm not recording 15-minute messages. I'm recording 1 or 2 minute messages, and I'm trying to get to the point more quickly. I've learned throughout the years. Besides that, there's also just all the things that I was experiencing and wanting to talk about and think about and get out into the world, that those things need to go through an editing process. I can't just whip it out and say whatever I'm thinking, because whatever I'm thinking isn't necessarily clear. It's almost never clear. It's almost never concise. And it ends up becoming just noise. And so I have learned to really value the importance of quiet time and of opportunity to think deeply and process what I am thinking and feeling before I go back out and try to say those things out loud with other people. That also gives me a chance to not be reactive. So in the moment, I might say something that I might feel angry all of a sudden and might spit back something that's not very nice. But if I take the time to process before I respond, then I'm able to say something that's very intentional. There are a number of things that we teach and we talk about with our clients that help the people to be very intentional and deliberate about the things that they say and how they say it, so that they can communicate with more power, communicate and have more influence, and be a better collaborator and work together with people better. And so one of those models that we use is the voice model. We talk about you need to have vision, voice, vision, an offer. You need to know what you're offering and contributing. Your initiative, what are you going to actually do about this? How are you going to approach it? Curiosity, what else do you need to understand? And then empathy, what is the impact on other people? What impact has something had on me, but also what impact am I going to have or could I have on somebody else? And how I say things. And I think that if you take time to be quiet, you think about it, you might just think, if I say this might be how they respond to me. So that's the importance of the intentionality there. This is the practice that I want to suggest at this point, that you can do 3 things. If you ask yourself 3 questions after you've been in a meeting or after you've had some sort of experience that needs processing, at the end of the day, whatever, you leave, you walk out of the room, you give yourself 5 minutes of quiet where you can ask these questions. Number 1, what happened? We call this acknowledgement. What happened, or what was said or done, and what impact did that have? Just putting those pieces together in your mind about what was just said in that meeting. How did that impact other people in the room? What impact could it have on the company? What impact did it have on me? And then the second question is, what is my impression of that? What do I think and feel about that? Like, this is the impact that it had on me, and this is what I'm thinking and feeling about the experience at this point. Or this is what I think and feel about the subject at hand. And then the third question is about, what action am I going to take next? So what do I want to do about it? Is there anything that I want to do about this? Now, you can either say, you know what, I think I'm good. I don't need to do anything. You could defer the thought till later. You know what, I think this is something I need to think about more, but I really don't have time right now. I think maybe tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got some time. I'm going to think about it then. Or maybe I want to talk with somebody else about it. So deferring that, what you're wanting to think or do about it, deferring that to later. Or you can do something about it now. You can say, you know what, I need to figure this out. And maybe it does involve somebody else. Maybe it's just yourself. But you need to figure it out now. So what do I really want to do about this? And I think there are times when we think we have to figure out what I think about something. So let's say somebody says or does something that you disagree with, and you feel like you need to say something about it. So maybe you come to that third question, and what do I want to do about it? And you say to yourself, okay, I really want to say that I want to talk to them about it, and I want to say that I don't agree with them, and we need to do this differently next time. But maybe before that, you need to think about it a little bit more. So you might want to build in some additional time to think through how you're going to approach that person, how you're going to do that. So by asking yourself these 3 questions, what do I need to acknowledge? What impression did it have on me? And what am I going to do about it now? Those 3 things help you find your inner voice. Who are you? What do you think? This is your perspective. And your perspective is important because your voice matters, and you can make it matter more by knowing what you think, what you feel, what you want to do about it, and being intentional about how you're going to approach it in the future. So by taking that time, that quiet time to process and think through these things on your own before you move forward is essential to having a voice, to sharing your voice, and to making your voice matter so that you can have a voice of influence. If you want to have a voice of influence, you want your team to have a better voice of influence, give me a call. Send me an email. Contact me through our voiceofinfluence.net website. I'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to help because your voice matters and your team's voice matter.